It's not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
When you're telling these little stories, here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
I wouldn't trust this overgrown pile of microchips any further than I can throw it.
Developers!
There's a force in the universe that makes things happen. All you have to do is get in touch with it, stop thinking, let things happen. Be the ball.
There's nothing more exhilarating than pointing out the shortcomings of others, is there?
Welcome to Dyscultured for the week of November the 7th, 2012. My name is Anthony Marco from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
From downtown Toronto, looking west, I'm Andrew Curry.
Here in Owen Sound, it's Ryan Wiseman.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together. From the west coast of Canada, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. From the naked streets of Vancouver, Mr. Shane, the Beast, Birley!
Why, thank you, everyone. It's great to be back. And this is the big thing, a big change for me is that I am wearing pants today, and I don't know why, actually. I did intend to show up without pants, like my usual thing. But today, it's raining like a bastard in this town, and it's just too cold. So I am only sporting slightly perky nipples.
That's why I thought I'd say the naked streets, because I knew that you were no longer naked.
Yes, I know. It's a new thing, and I'm trying it out, seeing how it fits. But I may return at some point to the nude streets of Vancouver.
We are so glad to have you back, Shane.
It is.
I'm tearing up a little bit, Shane.
Oh, thanks, man. I had to take some time off. Life got in the way and shit like that. So
I expected that you would make up a more romantic story than that of like being out in the wilderness.
Oh well.
Not too late. Too late.
It's been fighting a bear for 8 weeks.
Yes, exactly. Fuck. You'd think I would have had something prepared for this, but yeah, sadly no.
Now, off the top there, Mr. Curry, what did we listen to?
Why, only the ending to my favorite Western of all time. It's actually not my favorite, but it's one of the, templates for Westerns. Hey, good movie, not complaining. The movie's called Shane, and you probably knew that from the kid repeatedly saying that word. So I thought it was appropriate because I knew a little bit beforehand. Shane and I were texting back and forth today, talking about what we were going to wear for the show and stuff like that.
Did you coordinate?
We did.
A little bit.
You're both wearing pants.
It's a start.
It's a good start. Exactly.
It's a new thing.
Exactly. Anyway, folks, you are listening to Dyscultured episode 210. 4 of us back in the saddles again. I want to start. We should put the Blazing Saddles theme behind us, but maybe we'll worry about that some other time. Anyway, you can find our show every week by going to Dyscultured.com. You can type Dyscultured into your favorite podcast aggregator. You can find us on email at dyscultured@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at Dyscultured. Everything live streams at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Wednesday nights. Live stream chat. There are friendly, fine people in the chat right now as we are recording. I'm serious. I'm not lying to you. Well, some of them aren't friendly, but they're fine.
And the pugs have just arrived.
Oh, dear God. We had 5 minutes of Shane.
Yeah.
And when you type in Dyscultured, it's always spelled with a Y. Why is that the now cringing Mr. Andrew Curry?
I could deal with the pugs, but you may be wondering why we don't have a story about the U.S. election right off the top of the show. We do have an election-based story, but it's not coming until the end. I don't know how you guys feel, but it's just, one, I'm not American, and two, a little disenfranchised from the politics and the Western-style quote-unquote democracy, but that's another story.
Exactly. So instead of starting with some kind of U.S. election story, which everyone's heard of before, we're going to go into a tried, tested, and true section of the show that we like to call Canada. So, it has reared its ugly head again. We talked about it a couple of episodes ago. The paywall stories have come back. And they've really kind of ramped up over the past week with the Toronto Star and also with the Globe and Mail. And there was one, I guess, opinion piece in particular that was in the Toronto Star this week, Andrew, that I know when I read it, I thought I'm going to create a dent in the desk by just reading this step by step.
You know, I didn't read it because I don't read the Star. I read Google News, and whatever story I find is interesting, I click on the link. I don't really fucking care where it takes me. That's just the kind of guy I am. But kudos to Mr. Anthony Marco for posting this wonderful link. I feel like a Disney character. It's like I don't know.
I have no problem with paywalls whatsoever.
It is the new Shane.
Says the designer for the Toronto Star paywall.
Well, you know, this is the thing, is that in order for the people to make money, to write these stories, for them to really be able to put meat and bread and milk and stuff on the table, they have to be paid. And if you're not paying for the news that's being written, you know, I got to say, I wrote this book, you know, about blogging, and in it really says that, you know, that there's a real big difference between writing for free and writing for not being free. So, you know, you have to keep doing it, because if you don't, you may as well just turn into a small little tiny yellow creature called a Pikachu that really just doesn't really do much of anything.
I lost the point when you started talking about your book.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the feeling that you really wanted to plug the book and say where on Amazon you could buy it, but you're holding back, and so you're just spinning your wheels trying to think, what can I say? Well, I'm trying to stop thinking about how.
Is there a new edition out that we're unaware of, Shane?
No, but
your volume just really dropped there, Shane.
Oh, I'll get right in here then.
There you go.
See, it's been a few weeks, and I've forgotten. I had no idea how to plug this thing in. It's so sad. But I really had nowhere else to go after that. So
okay. So when the Star came out with their paywall, there were a lot of people who were critical. I'm critical of paywalls, mostly because, for the most part, these newspapers don't write their content for the web. They write their content for the newspaper. One of the ways that you can tell that is because mostly people who write for the web, especially if they want to make money off the web, don't write something like the 1,500 words that this person has written, Rosie DiMano from the Star, to complain about the fact that everybody who doesn't like paywall is a whiner.
Not just a whiner, but a troll.
Yeah, that you are a troll.
I
if you don't
wrote off
like
that person right away. I mean, as soon as you started reading it, you know.
It's just one of these things. I mean, so there was a response that came out. Justin Beach, who's been on the show a couple times before, one to do with the Occupy movement back about a year ago in Toronto. There was a story that came out about that, but he was on the show way back talking about his music blog, North by East West, and he's got a blog called That's Swell. And he put up a long post called Paywalls and Dinosaurs in Journalism. And he focuses mostly on her attitude specifically in the post and kind of deconstructing what some of her arguments are. It is a long piece, but if you go to that'sswell.ca, you can certainly check out his response, and he links back to points in her article. He also talks about the fact that anybody who knows anything in terms of trying to monetize on the internet means that one of the things that you don't do is shut down access to your content.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's what he talks about. And I finally crystallized some of my thoughts this week, actually, in a guest post on Jim Henshaw's blog, Legion of Decency, because I don't have anywhere to post my writing anymore. Every time I feel like writing something, I don't do any blog posts anymore. So I'm thinking, where can this go? And so I did one, about 6 months ago that I put on Open Attitude, Andrew.
Yeah, I thought, don't you have a website running off your Dropbox folder or something?
I do, but I've got that.
Can you not add pages to that?
I could.
Oh, it suddenly became too hard. Oh.
Sorry. Is that a common refrain for you, Shane?
that yeah, I don't
If you put a paywall up, Anth, you could make some money and hire some folks to take care of all the troubling bits, and all you have to do is write.
Exactly.
If I could just say, like, quickly, it's really worth reading this piece that both the one Anthony wrote, because I just checked it out before the show. You can find it on Legion of Decency, is it blogspot.ca.com, whatever. And then
the Legion of Decency with hyphens in between the words .blogspot.ca.
Yeah, and the owner of that blog is in the chat tonight, Mr. Jim Henshaw. And also this piece on That Swell. It does a great blow-by-blow. It's the only reason I linked to Rosie DiMano's piece is because it's a link in this piece. And it's a fantastic rebuttal of why paywalls obviously don't work. And I'm kind of getting to the point where I feel like we're belaboring the paywall thing. I've said my piece. I think our community should boycott the Globe, Mail, and the Star and any other organization that puts up paywalls for the simple reason that they're disrespecting the users, that they're sending a clear message that they do not want us coming to their site for free. I'm perfectly happy to respect that.
I try to avoid this week as much as possible.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And I know they're easily circumvented because paywalls are stupid, but I think for the sake of our readers who may be coming to see our blog after the fact, after the paywall goes up, so if they click on a link from the Globe and Mail that's more than 10 days old or link number 10, I can't remember how the Globe's paywall worked. But
sorry, I initially thought you were talking about how we were going to put up a paywall on Dyscultured. I was going to freak out there for a minute. Like, really, we are? Oh.
After you listen to 210 episodes, that's it.
Yeah, it's a donation wall. It's not a paywall. So anyway, great piece that you should read, and we're maybe not doing it justice. But,
I mean, the one point I just wanted to make, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and the reason that I wrote this down is because I got really pissed off reading the Star piece, and I got a little bit inspired by reading Justin's piece, and I was thinking to myself, I want to get my thoughts down on this, because every time I talk about it on the podcast, I'm kind of haphazard. Like, I haven't really crystallized everything in my head. And the biggest problem that I discovered I had with this is oftentimes the argument that you give, Andrew, when you talk about Spectrum and you talk about cable and you talk about the fact that all this stuff was kind of just gifted to the big providers by the government.
Right.
And the analogy that I like to make is that the press, the freedom of the press, is a constitutionally protected estate. And if it's going to be constitutionally protected, you better make it accessible to the people. The press is supposed to be a public trust. And when you shut that down, that becomes problematic. If you want to create a lesser version that's free, that people can access, that's fine. But it shouldn't be limited by the amount of articles that you can read. Find some other way to do it. Bonus content, whatever. But the basic information, if you're going to be running a newspaper, should be that you provide information to the people whoever reads your newspaper in your city, in the country, whatever.
You know what really surprises me about this is that they are a collection of reasonably smart people. They've written articles for quite some time about this particular, situation that newspapers are finding themselves in. Yet none of them thought, we got to do something and reinvent what we do in order to, make it viable and blah, 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 blah. And I haven't really seen any articles like that recently anyway that aren't borderline just bitching and moaning. Is that just me, or? Well, no, because what they're trying to do is, and here's the scam: there are plenty of blogs out there that make money. I mean, think about a blog like, well, it's a website, but think about The Verge, Andrew, which we talk about quite a bit on this show. I mean, they don't do that website without making money off of it, so you know that they're profitable. There is a model for making money on the web if you want to do an information-based website. The way that you do it is not to assume that because you write something for a newspaper that it is instantly translatable to the web. Like, that's a horrible model to go by. I mean, that's like saying that, if I create this music for a commercial that I did, it will instantly be a hit. I mean, two different venues, and they can't make that distinction. The person who picks up a tabloid piece of paper and reads it on the subway is not necessarily the same kind of person who reads on their mobile phone. There is nothing wrong with the Weekly World News, man. All that shit's real.
But before we leave this, can I throw in this high-level geek cred? There's a comment. It's by this. The handle's Ditto Much. I wonder if the JavaScript libraries you use free of charge will be legal if you start charging. jQuery, for instance, is covered under the MIT license in Section 2.3. Clearly states that it cannot be used behind a paywall. jQuery is used in every single section, every single page of this site. If you are going to charge, you are saying that you get paid for your work, but the software developers don't.
Oh,
snap! Oh, dude. Oh, that. Oh,
the star just got pwned, yo.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. My God, that's brilliant.
Damn.
So there you go. But Rosie DiManno doesn't read comments, so she'll never be able to respond.
Exactly. And I think that's a nice segue into a section of the show that we like to call Copy Fight! In Illinois, that's right, the United State, which hosted the celebration victory party of Barack Obama last night. Like how I worked that in?
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Topical.
A judgment against Kiwan, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it, Kiwan Fisher from Hampton, Virginia. So they decided to sue him in an Illinois court, just because oftentimes when they do patent suits, they do them in Texas, because they probably have a favorable judge in Illinois. He was ordered to pay $1.5 million to a porn production company for sharing...
porn.
Pardon me?
Gay porn.
There you go. Even more specific.
From the Wikipedia site.
How to shame somebody.
Gay media featuring black
you had to qualify that, didn't you, Mr. Curry? You caught on to it. Damn, you prepared that qualification before we caught on to it. One of us should have quickly said, and you know that because...
I was going to say that.
For sharing 10 movies on BitTorrent, $150,000 per movie, which is probably bigger than the budgets of those movies by about 150,000 times. The maximum possible statutory damage under U.S. copyright law. And then the last point in the lead of this story is that it is expected that the verdict will be used to motivate other BitTorrent defendants to settle their cases, which is what they always want, right? You know, oh, don't worry about the $1.5 million. Just pay us like $100,000 or $10,000. Or I hope this disgusted everybody as much as it disgusted me. I found that interesting wrinkle in the fact that it was porn.
I'll tell you what the interesting thing is for me. The company apparently found out about this. So the videos were downloaded legally because this person was a paid member of the site. Not here to judge. But when they uploaded, or when the plaintiff, defendant, the person being charged, when they uploaded the videos, apparently there's some water.
The defendant, sir.
Thank you, sir. I've spent a long time.
The perp.
The perp.
It's been a long time since I watched Ally McBeal. Anyway, so uploaded the videos, and there's apparently it's not a watermark, but it's some kind of technology in the video that alerted the company that their stuff was being shared on P2P networks. I'm interested in what that code is. Like I can think of, because we do a podcast and we deal with MP3 files, I'm thinking of like the ID3 tags that you can see that identify things. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I believe iTunes Music Store purchases use the user's credit card as identification somewhere in those ID3 tags. I was not aware that there was of a similar tagging structure for videos. Would someone be able to school me on that?
Well, I don't have information about that particular technology, but yeah, you can embed quite a bit of stuff inside of a video mainly because the structure is so large. You can actually, I've never done this, but you can hide stuff inside of a video because no one's going to go, oh, my video is suddenly X size, and that kind of stuff.
You could hide stuff even just, once every 5 minutes you could drop a frame or two in and put stuff in that way, right? ID3 tags you can strip.
That's what I'm wondering. If the person was just dumb and they didn't strip this shit out, like that is common knowledge, like the ID3 tags in MP3, or is it something that's more dubious? Like, can you embed stuff on, like, say, the second video track that won't be seen, but is like information that if you loaded it up in a certain program?
I suspect that they just didn't know. It's not really something that a lot of people, use for one, but
it was interesting.
For me,
go ahead.
The teachable moment for this is that if you're going to upload gay porn to P2P networks, listeners of the show,
you heard it here first.
Make sure you strip out the watermarks and anything that can incriminate you, especially if it's from Flava Flav Works or whatever they're called.
Transcode that.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I remember a story, and we might have discussed it back near the beginning of the year because it kind of sprung to mind. There was a case that we talked about on this show before where the defendants were making a claim that you could not copyright a porn film. And I don't know whether that's been heard or not, or whether that's been decided or not. That was actually from originally a Torrent Freak link. But the defense was arguing that because there's a clause in the copyright law which talks about that copyright has to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and adventurers the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. And the defense argued that early circuit law in California held that obscene works did not promote the progress of science and the useful arts and thus cannot be protected by copyright. So by the fact that they're pornographic and by definition in many places illegal, they can't be copyrighted. Which I don't know if that's been heard or not, and I don't know that I have time to go looking for it now. But something interesting to look at.
Another interesting thing to look at, I don't know why I don't do this sooner, is that I'm just now checking the comments under this Torrent Freak story. And very first comment, meet the troll lawyer, crazy psychopath, Minith Huan, alleged rapist. And there's a bunch of links there. So, wow. And apparently he's featured prominently in a site called fightcopyrighttrolls.com. And then there's another comment that says Minith Huan loves cock. I would pay for shit like that.
Wow.
I'm not going to pay Rosie DiMano. I want to pay for hilarious, insightful comments like that.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the number is the scariest part of this. 1.5 million for 10 films. No matter what the films are about, it seems excessive. And I dare say that, I mean, if you want to make an argument about who lost value because of this, who buys porn these days?
Yeah, talk about music.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Who actually buys porn? Unless you're giving it as I'm saying, unless you're giving it as like a stag and doe joke gift to somebody. I mean,
or you're buying 50 Shades of Grey.
Is that porn? I wouldn't know. Is it, Andrew?
I haven't read it. I'm not going anywhere near it.
Anyway. Scary stuff. $1.5 million for sharing porn. Maybe something that somebody would have liked to have done in the privacy of their own place. In what may be the scariest story that we've ever talked about on the Dyscultured podcast. And it sounds goofy, but this is... I'm sorry. I'll drop the F-bomb here. This is fucking scary. There is a patent which apparently Microsoft has applied for, which would allow the Kinect system, which reads movements in the room and scans your room so that you can, use video games and interact with their programs by using a camera, not using any kind of controller or joystick. They have applied for a patent. He had to laugh when joystick came up after porn.
Sorry, we just followed this up with or started this off with a porn story. So I'm immature.
So the idea of hands-free really appealed to you right there.
Well, you see, this is the thing, right? You've got all these different... I'm going to shut up now.
For the rest of the episode, everything is going to be a euphemism.
Exactly.
A patent whereby they can use the Kinect to scan to see how many people are in your rec room, let's say. And so if you decide that you're going to download a film and watch it over your Xbox, they can charge you per person instead of charging you one flat rate price. Or they can actually see how many people are watching and or observing something. In other words, they're using the Kinect to spy on you.
So you'll understand why I uninstalled Google Chrome from my computer. Shane, you don't know this, but last week or the week before... I went from the open source Chromium browser, which kind of sucks, to the not so open source Chrome browser, which is available on Linux. And all of a sudden my webcam started beeping at me like it was being accessed. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I do a little bit of research. And apparently Chrome has this API where any program or website or app can access the webcam without explicit user permission. I'm like, no. In the same way.
Okay, I'm going to ask in my very professional kind of way. What? You're right. I did not know this. I'm going to stop masturbating in front of my laptop. I mean, it's the only thing I can do. I mean, I got to protect myself, you know? Know what I'm saying?
No. Just use IE.
Oh, all right. Okay, that's okay.
You'll be fine.
Totally secure.
But if Clippy comes up.
If Clippy comes up, or the Bonzi buddy.
It appears you're trying to masturbate.
So, scary as this story is, it's interesting to note, and I think people may remember I lived pretty close to the Ontario College of Art and Design, so there's lots of hipster kids walking around with their MacBooks. I do specifically remember in the last couple of weeks I was walking through the food court near where I live, and there was an OCAD student with his MacBook, and he had the webcam taped over, and I thought, very smart.
They actually show a diagram on this article. We're getting it from geekwire.com, which has people sitting in front of a display. They actually are itemizing the items itemizing the description, the way it's drawn. They have large screen display device display. They have a picture of the Kinect, and then a little square inside the display device. One says license manager, and the other says consumer detector.
And there's another thing in the story about they can tell if somebody's underage by measuring dimensions. So if somebody's trying to watch a porn movie on excess. Yeah, then they can.
You appear to be only 4 feet tall.
Yeah, I'm a midget.
So midgets are out of luck for watching porn.
I bought that legally.
How many steps can we take towards Big Brother before?
A lot.
Well, apparently. I don't know how this can come out and people aren't taking their Kinects and putting just at very least putting tape over top of them, or if not, just smashing them with a hammer.
Well, I come back to my statement I always make: people don't give a shit because they're too busy. They're too busy playing Kinect or something. I don't know.
I mean, this used to be a big deal. Do you remember when pay-per-view was a big thing? When you buy sports events for $79, boxing matches used to be ridiculously expensive. You watch a world championship fight, and the idea was you'd have somebody's house and you'd get 20 people in there. Everyone would chip in $5, and you'd pay for this thing. And that was a big thing back in the 80s to do. This almost looks like, hey, people have been trying to rip us off because 5 people have been watching this film for the price of 2 people. Screw them.
Yeah.
I
think it's going to take a while for people to recognize the impact of decisions like this being made, because I say they don't care, but I think the real truth is that I don't think that they're aware enough, because the majority of people using these devices use them because they're convenient or whatever, but don't understand the impact of how they actually work, like how rentals work for iTunes, or how rentals work for the Google Play Store. Really, convenient technologies do the job reasonably well, but then you turn around and you have shit like this going down, and in my experience, they don't have the patience or inclination to actually go, I wonder if there's anything really kind of security, really, I wonder, and they just kind of get into a circle where they
connecting a camera into the internet and having it pointing at me at all times.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that people don't think about the abuses that the consumer products and or websites and or anything else you plug into the machine could actually do things that it doesn't advertise, or at least is somewhere. I mean, you see all this kind of crap inside of how many, again, it's the argument of how many people read the terms of service for any particular product and or service. Do they actually do it? And most people say, no, we just click yes, and then there you go. And I mean, you could put clauses in there where it's by the way, on your every 3rd birthday, we get to come to your house and punch you in the face. No one ever really thinks that kind of stuff will go down. And sadly, when you have the ex-president of the United States going to his voting booth and clicking on Obama and then realizing that you couldn't change the vote, I mean, what can you really expect from somebody who has never read a Microsoft Office terms of service document?
One of the things that this brings to mind is if you ever look at the back of a DVD when you rent it, and it's probably in the fine print, like you said, Shane, of some of these rentals from iTunes or whatever, it always says not for public display. Right? Yeah. It always says for private purposes, for private viewing purposes only, not for public display. How much you want to make a bet that some state tries to pass a law to define what public is. That like over five people already is determined as public. Or hey, 3's a crowd. You know?
Why don't I believe this is already on the books in some places?
Yeah, probably it is.
I was actually watching some show for the first time the other day called Slings and Arrows.
Oh, that's a great show.
And it's brilliant. Mainly, it's brilliant for a lot of reasons, but the thing it was brilliant for the other day was when they referred to why how people the government should not be in the bedrooms of the nation, that kind of thing, which is completely not connected in any way, but in my mind it is. So screw you guys.
I'll make the connection for you. I'll make the connection. So Slings and Arrows, Bob Martin was in that, right?
If he wasn't in it, he wrote it. He was one of the creators.
Okay, yeah. That's right. So Bob Martin replaced me at Second City and then went on to start a Broadway show. Sucks to be me. Anyway, he bought a I can't remember the company who originally came out, but when it was one of the very first webcams available. It's called a Quick Cam. It was like a sphere, and it would connect to, I think it might have even been Mac only for whatever reason, because it was a hipster thing. But anyway, he had one, and this is back in the days of dial-up internet, and so having this thing that nobody else had, the only place he could go on the internet to try it out was this, like, I don't know, chat room site for other users of this particular QuickCam thing. So he goes on his dial-up internet connection and he joins this chat room. And so, like, if you remember the days of dial-up internet, graphics would load like line by line, right? So he's on this page.
I believe it's called, sir.
Correct. So he's in this room and there's like, I don't know, 5 other people there, and the lines are like resolving like one by one. So the first thing he sees are these manic staring eyes. And gradually it reveals himself that he's in the company of a bunch of men who are looking rather excited. And then he realizes that none of them are wearing shirts. And then he starts really freaking out because he realized he stumbled upon some kind of circle jerk site. At which point his computer freezes up, so he can't get out of it.
Wow. Why do I get the feeling that this is essentially Steve Ballmer's chat roulette? He's sitting on the other end of it, just like jumping between whoever's watching the Kinect. All I know is if I had one of these things in my front room, I would probably be going mobile.
Watch the police and the tax man miss me.
I missed these.
If you haven't noticed, Shane, over the past few weeks especially, Rai is the shit on these stingers. I'm just saying.
I was going to say that
I try and trip him up, but I can't.
I'm tearing up, man.
I can't even do it.
Tearing up.
A 5-year anniversary this week, Andrew. Sorry, should I say Andrewed?
Yeah. Android. Yeah, sure. So it's 10:41 p.m. as we're recording this Eastern time. I'm going to try and limit this to 10 minutes. The entire mobile section is about Android. A number of good concerns were brought up in the subreddit, so I'm going to try and sort of jump into this. Anyone's welcome to jump in, but I'm cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of links to cover in a very short time.
So what you're telling us is don't jump in and just let you go.
Yeah, I think that's what not saying anything.
I think that's what you're doing.
Okay, how about I stop at certain points? All right. So Android's 5 years old. I've got a link in from the Android Police, which is interesting. You should check it out. But seeing how this is an audio podcast, why don't I tell you very quickly my own personal history with Android? I haven't always been an Android user. As a matter of fact, the very first time I saw an Android phone, which was the first Android phone, the T-Mobile G1, was in Los Angeles at a Nokia-sponsored event. Nokia paid my way across the United States to shill for one of their phones that they had to fight the original iPhone, which didn't work out so well. Anyway, in this room with a bunch of other mobile phone geeks, somebody pulled out a G1, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's really cool. It was made by HTC. I had also owned an HTC phone prior. It was a Windows mobile device, so I knew HTC, Taiwanese company, made great hardware. Software was kind of interesting. I thought the app drawer was neat, but I didn't really know too much about it. I read about it subsequently, and basically the idea was that if you already had a Gmail account, you had an easy in. It had its own app store, and it built on the strengths of the Google platform. So Gmail, Google Maps, and then other stuff like navigation later on down the line. So I think the first Cinderella moment for Android was when original Droid came out, a Motorola phone on Verizon in the States, and I think that. Yeah. So, and I think there was a Super Bowl ad for that. I can't remember what year it was announced, but it was kind of a big deal. And I know it was a big deal because my brother, who lived in Bermuda at the time and knows dick all about cell phones, when we were talking over the phone one day, he was like, "Yeah, so what's this Droid thing? What's that's all about?" So it had actually made its way to the person in my family who knew the least about cell phones. So that was interesting. A fairly popular device. My personal favorite moment and the point where I jumped into the Android world was with the Nexus One, which I actually still have, and it was the phone I used on Mobilicity when I first switched to them. And it was a really cool phone, and it was a really interesting experience. And it was also my first experience hacking Android and installing a custom ROM, which is still, I think, to my mind, the most valuable thing about Android is that it's open source. You can take control and you can do what you want with it. And since then, there's more Nexus phones. We talked about the new Nexus phone last week. But if you want, by all means, check out this Android Police article because they have some other things I haven't talked about. I know that Shane loves his Galaxy GS3, hopefully still.
Fuck yes. Oh my God, I cannot tell you. Having an Android phone is far better than the iOS that other people are used to. The iOS is simply an inferior operating system that I think it was originally designed just to piss people off and make them angry about how they really wanted to smash their phone, but they couldn't because they felt that paying so much for an expensive device, they just couldn't throw it on the ground like I used to with my old Nokia, whatever the hell it was back in the 1970s, it seemed. But yes,
you know what? If you have a 1970s Nokia phone, Andrew wants it.
Yeah, exactly. but truthfully, when I got my iPhone, I only got it mainly because I wanted the Android. However, it was back then. It was the HTC Android. It was called the Dream at that point. It also had like a different version with the side for the keyboard that slipped out and whatnot. But I couldn't bring myself to do it because I tried out the OS and I just felt for what I wanted to do, version 1.5, I think it was at that point, was just not going to suffice for what I imagined I would be doing with the phone. And granted,
it didn't get good till 2.2. 2.2 was when they introduced Wi-Fi tethering, which made it like way better. Before that, it was
exactly.
kind of like,
and I think that took until when did that come out? That was, I think, what, 2 years ago, something like that. Anyway,
yeah, I think it was 2010 because I bought my Nexus One with 2.2, and then Gingerbread came out shortly thereafter.
What I like about the way that the developers are rolling out Android is they're getting it out there, they're getting the updates out, they're getting the new flavors out, so to speak, as quickly as possible. Like they're really pushing the envelope because that's the way that you really, that's the way that you piss off, I think, Apple consumers. Because why do you think that the iPad, 6 or 8 months later, had to go from the iPad 3 to the iPad 4? Because all of a sudden, all of these new iterations of the Android operating system are coming out and making tablets better. And when you have that push going on, then you're going to have all of a sudden the iPad has to come out new, every 6 months? And you're going to find a lot of people who usually buy every single thing that comes out saying, we can't keep up anymore.
Yeah, and to be clear, Android is written. There's no tablet version. Android is Android, whether it's on a tablet, a computer, a netbook, or a phone. It's the same operating system. There are different skins for it, but that's all built into the operating system. So basically, there's instructions somewhere in the OS that says, "Oh, this screen is this size and it's a tablet. No problem. I'll render it this way."
Well, and that's the thing that I've been showing my minions who do coding for me is that. When we're building mobile sites now, I went out and got the Galaxy Tab 10.1 or whatever. What is that thing actually called? I was confused about that. But anyway, the Galaxy Tab 2, which I really like, and when I started beta testing it for websites, I had to learn a little bit more about how the user agents work, and because it's easy. For some things, user agents, by the way, for those who really want to know, is what identifies a tablet versus a mobile phone. It's this little bit of code that says, "Hey, by the way, browser, I'm a tablet, or I'm a this, or I'm a that." Anyway, to make a long story short, I just love it. I love my tablet. I love my phone. It's the first time I've had devices that I didn't at one point want to throw on the floor, which I did with my the Apple iPhone quite a bit, just because it would not integrate with certain things, and I was really frustrated with how I couldn't share data from one program to another, or at least be able to send it somewhere that I wanted it to go. And so overall, rah, more Android coming, and I can't wait for the next iteration, which I think is called not Gingerbread. It is called...
I think it's still Jelly Bean, but eventually...
Key Lime Pie?
Yeah.
Is the next one, I think?
Key Lime Pie, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so...
But anyway, yes, I love it. It's great, awesome. If you don't buy one...
And apparently the world agrees with you, Shane.
Yes. This is
true. Q3 this year, Android has 75% market share, which is pretty astounding. And this is worldwide. This isn't just the States or North America even. It's around the world. 75% of smartphones, possibly mobile devices in the world, are Android devices.
Now the Apple apologist is going to say, yeah, but that's like 1,000 different SKUs and we only have one. Well, that's kind of the point.
Right. Yeah. People this is why the fragmentation thing never worked for me, because I see it as choice. I mean, if you go out and buy a phone with a skin on it, like a TouchWiz on Samsung or Sense on HTC, and then 2 months later decide you don't like it, well, that's your own fault because you didn't do your research. But there is the fact that people are projecting Android is going to have a 90% share of the mobile marketplace by 2013, end of 2013, according to this link we have from the Extreme Tech website. And there's a lot of thoughts about, okay, what does that mean? It's not dissimilar to when Microsoft had a monopoly on desktop computers in the early 90s, or arguably through much of the 90s. It's a good thing in that Google can drive a lot of standards, and because Google runs on Linux, if it's not a completely open source operating system, big chunks of it are open. They can drive and adopt open web standards like HTML5. There's some other things they talk about, like native client, which I'm not too familiar with. So that's good, but the bad thing is that basically one of the reasons why Android is so popular is because it's given away for free to manufacturers. There's no licensing fee for Samsung or any device maker who wants to make a phone. How does Google make its money? Well, they're basically in the business of data mining. And there's another piece here. Anth posted something to the Reddit, and I went to the source, which is from Juniper Networks. They do computer security. And so they have a forum post, which looks a lot like a blog post to me, but it sort of goes through a lot of the permission-based issues in Android apps. So just sort of some quick bullet points. 24% of free apps have permission to track user location, which you may or may not be worried about. Keep in mind that the cell phone is a perfect tracking device. Basically, you at least have to broadcast where you are to the nearest cell tower so you can get a signal. 6% of free apps have permission to access user address books, which is a little more sketchy. I know I've had that experience a couple of times when all of a sudden a game will be like, this game is trying to access your address book. How did I know that? Hang on a sec, I'll get to that. 2% of free apps have permission to silently send text messages. Not cool. 6% of free apps have permission to clandestinely initiate phone calls in the background. That's really weird. Basically, it seems to me from this piece that the biggest culprit is games, specifically card and casino games. Apparently, 94% of free apps in this category have permission to make outbound calls and do not describe why the apps would justify using this capability. 83% free apps have permission to use the camera without any description of why the camera is being used, so much like the Kinect. And then 84% of casino apps have permission to send SMS messages. So what can an Android user do to protect themselves? If you are running an ice cream sandwich-based device, which Shane, I think?
Oh, yes.
Android 4.0. You need to go to the Android market right now. This link is in the show notes, and find an app called LBE Privacy Guard. It's put out by a Chinese company, and the reason why...
Oh, that makes me feel so much better.
It should be Huawei, I think.
It's not. It's part of. It's a company that develops apps for a Chinese version of Android called MIUI. It's quite popular. I've used it in the past. I've downloaded it. It's really, really good. As you can imagine, a lot of so-called security apps in the Android world are kind of bullshit, much like their Windows counterparts. This is an exception. Basically, you install it, it'll monitor apps and what they're trying to do. So if an app is trying to do something funky, like if a card game is trying to access your address book or turn on the camera, you'll know about it, and you'll have a little button where you could say, no, I don't think so. It's really, really cool, and it's totally free. And it has been, it's not quite open source, but people have hacked it, which I'm going to get to now. The problem with this app is that it only works with Ice Cream Sandwich. It does not work with Jelly Bean. Jelly Bean Android 4.1 is what I'm running on all my devices, my tablet, my phone right now. So I can't actually use that because the developers haven't updated it yet. I can use the new version of MIUI, which has the new version of this privacy guard built in, but the only thing available is a Chinese version of the app. So, because Android is so awesome, if you head over to another link that's in the show notes, xdadevelopers.com, some of the people in the community there have actually hacked into this program and done an English translation of it. I actually haven't tried it yet, and what they're basically doing is they're going through all the different screens and the graphical elements and using Google Translate to try and figure out what the app's doing at certain points and basically trying to make it useful to an English-speaking audience, which is a really cool idea. And it's definitely a hack, but it makes it a lot useful. I'm probably...
Sorry, that was kind of... Your broken English usage there was well timed.
Because we're talking about a Chinese security app. It seemed appropriate. So I'm probably not going to use it myself. Why is that? Because the final link I have in this Android story, Android 4.2 apparently has built-in permissions, some kind of built-in permissions monitor. Don't know too much about it yet, but there's a story from a site called Liliputing, which is fairly reputable. You can, in addition to knowing the permissions of apps before you download them, you can actually monitor apps as they are installed on the phone. So that sounds like it's something intriguing to me. I still check from time to time for a new version of LBE Privacy Guard. I resisted upgrading to Jelly Bean or using a Jelly Bean ROM on my phone for the longest time because I really love LBE Privacy Guard, but I'm going without it for now in the hopes that Android 4.2 will do users right on security. And that is all the Android news I have.
And that was this week's Nerdgasm by Andrew Curry.
Well, hey, while you were talking, I installed it.
It's so like,
I'm rocking
dude,
it now.
You went deep there, dude. You went, speaking of that gay porn, you went deep.
Dead silence. Well, speaking of gay porn, you're right.
But no, but holy fuck. I looked at the links and I didn't know what the heck you were going to do with the links before the show. So I looked at the show notes, and if you look at our show notes, you'll see via this, and this. And I'm thinking, how do these stitch together?
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, by all means, hit me up on Twitter, Google+, or just leave a comment on the blog, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do, there are still some Android haters out there, and a lot of Nokians I know from Twitter are still not entirely comfortable with the privacy thing. You can use a completely open source version of Android, but you will not have access to Gmail and any of the Google stuff because that's proprietary. And I've on my Nexus One, actually, I have CyanogenMod with no Google stuff and no Google tracking, and it's good. There's an open source repository for apps, but it's not up to the same level of polish that the Google stuff is.
So if you want to know, we need to start a new segment of the show called Ask Andrew. It's Ask Andrew. Yeah, sure. There you go.
I could probably read through a couple of questions faster than that whatever I did just there.
Wow. In honor of Shane coming back, I believe that this week he has put on his khaki pants.
I'm on Facebook, and my Facebook updates with my tweets. So I Twitter, and then everybody knows my deep.
Okay, when I saw this link in here, friend of the show, podcast noob, a.k.a. Steve Chaika, who was on a couple of months ago talking about GIMP magazine, which, by the way, they've got a new issue coming out very soon. Did he submit this link? Because as soon as I saw Halo on it, I thought, oh, dear.
No, it's our own Mr. Ryan Wiseman.
Wow.
Yeah, it was It was mine, and it wasn't for the Halo per se. It was more on the YouTube front that I found a couple of things interesting. So the article's from Slate. It's how YouTube is leaving amateurs behind. And he goes on to talk a little bit about, I guess, more popular networks that are developing content on YouTube, what that means to the lowly YouTuber.
And feature film quality for a lot of it as well.
Yeah, like close to anyways. The Halo reference we were making there is Machinima has a web series, Halo 4, Forward Unto Dawn. Machinima? That's not how I heard it pronounced by somewhere. Anyway, it doesn't.
Someone who knew.
But
what
this
it
is
was.
also the same company who's putting out I don't know if it's in this article, but they're putting out the new Battlestar Galactica prequel that's coming out, and it's being shown in, I think, 10 episodes on YouTube. Same company that's doing this, and then they're going to slap them all together, and they're going to release it as a DVD, and they're going to show it on TV. But it's premiering as episodes on YouTube.
Blood and Chrome.
That's it.
There you go.
Well, YouTube is actually financing this Machinima thing. So I saw the pilot for it. It's basically like a live action version of Halo. I guess they got the license to use the characters or whatever, the branding or whatever that bullshit is. But
that paywall.
That paywall proprietary stuff. But it is a bit troubling in that Google is turning more like they're basically becoming more like another traditional broadcaster and not so much about the emo kids doing confessionals from their
but that's not going away. So the title of the article is kind of it should say like YouTube, how YouTube is building another layer of branded content above YouTube, perhaps.
Yeah. I actually have thought about and talked about this stuff a lot because we have a lot of clients that want to, they want to catch new eyes and all that kind of stuff. But I was watching for a while there. I was watching a lot of these amateur video bloggers that were doing, just funny stuff, video reviews, all kinds of junk,
like
and it's
quick
mind
edit
candy.
cuts like every 2 seconds, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And then a whole bunch of them, a lot of the really large, popular ones, started becoming really, really polished very quickly, and I wasn't sure why, because none of them ever spoke about it. They, some of them might have referred to, "Oh, hey, I'm moving to, insert new city name here." And what was actually happening was that was actually when this company called Maker, which is actually mentioned in the article, started. And what Maker started doing at the very beginning of their existence was they got VC funding of some sort, and then they started hiring these amateur video bloggers, and basically got them. We're going to pay you money, but you have to move here, where our productions facilities are. And, if you're an amateur blogger going to school, I mean, which most of these, cats are. Did I just use the phrase cats?
But that's cool.
What am I?
Cats is cool, man.
What is this about the 70s
Cats
today?
is cool, man.
So right on. So anyway, I did notice quite a few of these guys that had these secret projects that they kept mentioning. And then anyway, so it turned out eventually that they were actually being shipped off to a different city where they were going to be shooting their, quote unquote amateur video.
Well, they're
in a studio with lights and the whole thing.
Signed to a label,
they're being
man.
funded by YouTube. So YouTube.
Well, some of them are. Some of them, definitely
YouTube
are.
funded Machinima or Maker. They funded several shows from Revision 3. Apparently, they had $1.5 million, and they gave $150,000 to 10 different kind of vlogger networks, essentially.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what came out in the wash after finally, and it was kind of done in this very sort of not making a big deal of it kind of way, which I thought was kind of nice, because they probably, I think initially they were not wanting to advertise the fact this was happening, but the reason I'm going on about it is that the point I wanted to mention was that the shows became very polished. But the shows definitely had lost the amateur feel. That you could tell that somebody was behind them, telling them, what was funny, what was ever, whatever the hell it was. But they lost a lot of audience because of that. Because suddenly they were
no longer authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, yeah. To be honest, yeah, they definitely were not, and they really did fall apart. Some of them, and I know some of the bloggers actually quit. And a lot of there used to be this growing group of people that were trying to start essentially, blogger. Not marathons. What's the word I'm looking for? Blogger based sort of YouTube. Celebrity conferences and whatnot, so you could actually go and meet people and blah 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 blah. But it was just very interesting how it all went down, and I got to watch just all these people that were starting to badmouth the bloggers themselves because how dare they're selling out and that kind of attitude. And then it kind of for me culminated in Life in a Day. Because that sort of took the entire amateur blogging idea and turned it on itself.
Dare I say that it took the YouTube oeuvre?
Sure. I could agree with that. But I don't know. It was just very interesting because I'm not a huge YouTube watcher.
And that's what this was what they were trying to make you do. YouTube is trying to make you switch from television to YouTube.
Exactly, and then of course there's the whole Netflix argument. Netflix producing Lilyhammer and a bunch of other things. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on whether or not this is a great idea or the worst idea ever. But I don't think it's unexpected because at some point we are going to have to deal with. Or sorry, I could care less. At some point the cable companies but more actually the broadcast companies are going to have to wake up and actually decide, what are we going to do about our losing our audience, losing our revenue, and these kinds of things.
I don't have a problem with this, mostly because of the fact that if you want to put it all on one channel, I mean, the only fear that I have is ultimately you're going to have these amateur videos who start to treat YouTube tags and analytics like they used to on websites, so that when you call up this clip, then their clip shows up in the next suggested clips.
Yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
that's the game that you can play. But ultimately, if you're doing amateur stuff on YouTube and you're doing independent stuff on YouTube, the more viewers that go there, the better. I mean, that's the way you have to look at it. Ultimately, the more people that go there. If you don't want to be on something like that, go to Vimeo.
So, just to be clear, Ryan, so your thoughts on this, good, bad, otherwise?
Well, a couple of things. One, I just wanted I thought it was interesting that the article notes that Google sees YouTube as a hub for premium advertising as Facebook threatens its search business. So that's one thing. This is a higher valued search or advertising product for them. So
yeah, and that does piss me off that now I don't know, it's probably the user agent string in my tablet, but specifically on my small tablet that I have, when I watch YouTube videos, there's almost always an ad that I have to sit through at least 3 seconds of before I can skip, and that pisses the fuck out of me.
And so that's on these networked the accounts for sure, where you have to sit through a Canadian Tire ad, right, or something of that nature.
Well, sometimes you got to give Santa or save
whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, sometimes.
I'm kind of I'm conflicted on the monetization of those videos. I mean, at one level, if it's a large company, marketing to me, and they're blatantly throwing their own ads in there, that kind of annoys me because I'm already watching your video and I obviously want to watch it for some reason. I don't need extra advertising about what else you do because I just don't care. But
it's a value model. If you don't like the ad, then just stop watching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as television, right?
Well, exactly. That was kind of where I was going with that.
I just worry that if YouTube puts more of their attention towards more professional or things that are going to yield more views or whatever, that eventually they're going to decide, well, we don't really need to support people who are just uploading the webcam videos or whatever, and they're going to become just another traditional broadcast channel.
Someone else will start up.
Oh, for sure. But it's just, when it's someone like Google and they realize, oh, we can make money this way, and Google remembers that company that's supposed to be don't be evil. I never really thought their acquisition of YouTube was a good idea.
I think what you're going to start to see is a more well-defined concept of YouTube channels. Because right now the channels are the same, whether it's the Dyscultured YouTube channel or you go on to CBS. It looks exactly the same, in terms of how it appears on your page. Now, you can create a channel that has a little bit of a different HTML look to it and has a different color background and lay it out a little bit differently. But for the most part, there's no real big difference between them. So I'm wondering if eventually it becomes so that, you know, if a professional company wants a YouTube channel, they kind of get their own interface powered by YouTube. And that might be a way they go.
I think that's already happening in a subtle way. And but I mean, the way I look at YouTube is I look at YouTube becoming what Blip TV became. And Blip TV initially, when it was created, it's blip.tv in case anyone doesn't know what it is. But when they first started, they were very much the community. This is how, you know, it's basically the alternative to using YouTube. And but as time went on, I think they found it very hard to compete with YouTube. And so essentially what happened was, if you are an owner of a video stream on Blip, what happened is these video systems started locking down to the point where they would kick people off if they weren't producing a certain level of quality. And it's gotten to the point with Blip, because I've used it for some of my clients, that if you're not creating episodic content, so if you're not creating something that has episodes and seasons, they actually kick you off and shut you down. And a couple of my clients were using it for the longest time for doing, you know, just video general stuff that you'd see on YouTube all the time. Blip actually started shutting their accounts off, saying, we noticed that your show that you have on our system is not really an episodic show. It's just a series of random videos. And Blip is horrible at communication. So suddenly I get clients phoning up saying, hey, where's all my videos? And I'm like, well, they're right there. And sure enough, I go there and the videos are gone. The accounts are gone. And I got to the point where I actually started phoning Blip and yelling at them on the phone saying, you know, what, I haven't received any, you know, the videos were defensive. What's going on? And it took them like 3 or 4 months in most cases to actually say, oh yeah, we shut you off and we didn't tell you.
Hang on, sorry, this is iWeb?
Well, I should, you know, really, I should have recorded my phone calls with these guys too. But yeah, it was just very shocking that as these companies evolve, they really have to, they don't have to, but they evolve in such a way where they make these tragic decisions where they terminate your account, they terminate videos because it doesn't fit whatever criteria. Like if you sign up for an account now on Blip, it's very clear. It says if you're just a YouTuber, then basically fuck off and don't use our service. But it's interesting that they were unable to really communicate with a lot of people, and I'm just trying to point out that Google's not the only company doing this kind of stuff. And, you know, because I've had to deal with it sort of firsthand, and I think really it's just a future that we're going to have to face up to, that these services are going to morph, and Netflix was just sort of the first kick at the can of doing exactly that, but trying to monetize in a different way.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a little gift to you from Shane, something that we called his edumacation.
We don't need no education.
Isn't that eerie sounding? Digital distractions in the classroom. This is a story that is coming out this week of, what is it? This is the one story that we have out of the Toronto Star, unfortunately, because it was about a Toronto University prof. So a York University prof, and York is, you know, one of the biggest universities in Canada, at the School of Business, has a contract with his students which don't allow them to use mobile devices in the classroom, and insists that they rat out their friends if they see them using a mobile device in the classroom for anything other than work. So they give an example of how someone was on their mobile device. He turned to the neighbor and said, "Tell me what they're doing." He said, "They're on Twitter," and he kicks them out of the classroom.
So not good?
Well,
I like it.
Now, here's the thing. If he's going to let electronic devices in the classroom, if he's going to allow them, period, then unless they're... put it this way. If you have to ask somebody sitting beside, don't get me wrong, I don't like a kid that's using a mobile device in the classroom, but then maybe you should work on making the class a bit more interesting. Or ask them, just say, look, but the point is, if you got people with with screens in front of you, and you can't tell if they're doing work or they're on Twitter, then who gives a fuck?
Oh, Anth, sorry to interrupt you. Can you just tell me? Hold on, can you tell me if Andrew's using his phone? I just wanted to know. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt the podcast for any longer than we needed to, but I just need to.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Good enough. Back to it.
Yeah. I think he's off the phone now. Well, I disagree with your criteria because I agree, but I disagree. I disagree with your criteria because the thing is this kind of behavior is not just happening in the classroom. Like I myself am getting annoyed unless everyone is doing it. I don't like sitting with people at restaurants or cafes or whatever when you're hanging out with them and they're on their phone. And I have tons of people that I know that do this, and it's just been a gradual sort of increase in my attitude against it, where you're trying to have a conversation with somebody. You're hanging out with them in person. You're not discussing whatever over Twitter or anything.
This is a different archetype, though. I mean, it's not.
I suppose.
It's not like.
I mean, the behavior's the same.
So put it this way: if you were sitting around at work, and you're sitting around a table, and everyone had a screen in front of them, and someone was on Twitter, and all the other people were working. I mean, ultimately, you don't know if the other person... I mean, if everyone's staring at a screen, everyone's staring at a screen. The model is the same. The problem here is that this isn't public education. This isn't a public school. This isn't where kids are forced to be there. These are kids who pay $15,000 to $20,000 a year in order to be there.
Clarification, their parents pay.
Well, no, not all. I mean, sometimes they do, but sometimes not. But the point is, this is a school where they are paying tuition, and to have somebody kick you out just because you decide I don't like the idea of a student being on Twitter or on Facebook. But if you're going to have a no electronics policy, then have that. But if you honestly can't tell the difference being up at the front of the class whether a student is on Twitter or Facebook or whether they're typing in notes, then I don't see why you should get students to rat each other out and then kick them out of class.
Well, I agree that part is stupid because that just creates... I mean, it has the potential anyway to create animosity between the students. And of course, they're going to be distracted going, oh, is Sally over there on Facebook? I wonder... maybe she could be checking her. No, well, I don't know. They could be doing that instead of paying attention to what the hell they're being lectured about.
Well,
right?
I mean, there's a quotation here by the professor who says he no longer believes students, even today's so-called digital natives, can truly learn while flipping between multiple windows. To prove his point, he shows students the gripping video of a boy struck by a car whose driver was distracted by texting. Okay, but the point is, maybe he's not teaching them well enough. Maybe he's not capturing their attention to where they're not being distracted.
Well, I think it's the key of why I disagree with what you're saying, because it to me, just simply by that one criteria, my initial reaction is like, well, do my friends think I'm really boring?
Yes.
And am I not?
Yes,
am I being?
There is a cultural thing though. Like I do notice because I direct this. I direct Asian Exploitation, which is a comedy troupe of all Asian folks. And I've noticed between that group of people and my other pasty white group of friends, not that the two don't mix and intermingle, but it seems to me that when I'm out with the Asian peeps, having phones on the table during dinner, checking out for a second to check up on email or something is a little more acceptable than when I'm with the crackers, and then all of a sudden the phone gets picked up and they're like, "What are you doing? You've got to give me 100% of your attention. I'm telling you about my day." It's an interesting cultural shift, and I don't think it's limited to a specific race or age even. I'm interested in this, especially Anth with being a teacher, in sort of the challenges of a generation that are I guess digital natives, for lack of a less gay term, but just I know.
I think they're called Digital First Nations, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh dear. So propensity for type 2 diabetes.
Too soon.
Wow.
Hey, take away their land. What else can they do?
Oh.
Chef Boyardee's on sale for 50 cents.
Oh, wow.
It's not
And
like
that
it's
was
their
the
fault.
end of the Sculptured podcast
Oh.
when the police raided Anthony Marco's home. Anthony Marco's home? I don't know why your home, but apparently Andrew got away with it.
Another quotation by the professor here. It goes, "It's not meant."
No, but it's all okay. So it's all about it's all about snitching in your students. I thought it'd be more interesting to talk about dealing with the challenge of having digital devices in the classroom.
Well, no, it is, but it's so. Listen, this is a quotation. It goes, "It's not meant to be punitive. It's almost like a thought experiment, and the whole point is to try and create a new social norm in my class." So what you're saying is he's using the students as test rabbits. I mean, that's essentially what he's doing. It's not meant to be punitive.
Well, paying to be there.
So what he's admitting is that it's not punitive in any way, shape, or form to miss his lesson, which I think speaks to the value of his lesson.
So what do you do when kids are? No, you're not teaching at the moment, are you?
I'm working out of an office now, but when I was in the classroom.
But when you were,
well,
like,
first
how did
of all,
you
I mean,
deal with
that was about. I mean, last time I was in the classroom was about 6 years ago, and so I mean, admittedly, mobile devices weren't as prevalent in the classroom. They were still there, but they weren't as prevalent. But at the time, it was a matter of there was no one who was using a computer to take notes in my class. So if they had a cell phone out at the time, they weren't using it for class. So I mean, that was obvious. But again, I draw a different paradigm too. I draw a different paradigm too between a public school, where they have to be there, and where they have to, and they're not paying for it. It's just, it's paid for through, and I can't just kick them out for the sake of kicking them out. They're my students, and this guy who's getting paid, $20,000 per student in order to have them there.
So, what is actually? Sorry, what's the general policy of the schools that you deal with? Like, what for digital devices in the classroom? I'm assuming
you mean
they
at the
must
secondary
have one.
level, it's high school level.
Yeah,
it is
exactly.
completely so messed up. It is ridiculous. I would say each board has some kind of policy which is very restrictive on mobile devices because it doesnn't like the potential bullying aspects of them, where you could video kids and all that stuff. But almost every single place you go into now, if you're a teacher, they'll say, "Oh, well, you need to find different ways to engage your students with technology." So, I mean, it's this total clash that happens when you're getting, one staff meeting you walk in and the principal is warning you about mobile devices. The other staff meeting, you have them going in there and say, "Here's ways you can use mobile devices." I mean, and you can't force a student to use technology the way that you want to use them. As I think we will find out in the next topic. But we'll get there in a sec because we just got a little message that Rai is taking a bit of a sabbatical.
No, I'm right here. Christ, there's a back channel for a reason.
Oh, come on.
And we certainly can't jump to the next topic without the stinger.
What stinger is that?
I don't know.
There's no back channel. This is Dyscultured, damn it.
Oh, let me pretend.
We're spying on everybody's webcams. Okay, so real quick, these are two. It was originally just one story, but there's two. So first is kids in Ethiopia were given a bunch of Android tablets. It doesn't really matter that they're Android. What matters is the interesting thing, these kids do not speak English. They have no understanding of English, either oral or written. And yet they were not only able to use the software, which was in English, and, make use of things, learn English words, read English things. Even more incredibly, these tablets have cameras on them, but they were disabled for whatever reason. Some of the kids found out how to hack the cameras and get them to work. That to me is unbelievably cool. And so anyone who thinks it's like, oh my God, like there's a lot of, I'm going to get political for a second. A lot of people in North America have a bleeding heart attitude towards Africa. It's like, oh, we got to help out Africa. Africa's a charity case. Everyone in the world is the same. People are, can be incredibly smart if you just give them a chance. And the fact that these poor, impoverished kids in wherever the fuck they are in the middle of Ethiopia, they were able to hack on an Android tablet, speaks to the potential of every African on the continent. So I am incredibly thrilled by this story.
It's amazing. When the headline completely speaks for itself. It's just amazing when you consider that when else in time could you even think of a headline like this? I mean, if 6 months ago, a year ago, this headline would have made no sense whatsoever. And it's still hard to believe. But I mean, Ethiopian kids hack OLPCs in 5 months with zero instruction.
Yeah, and just to be clear, so OLPC is the organization that dropped off these Android tablets. It's not like OLPC is like, oh my God, they're making Android
one
tablets.
laptop per child, which have become tablets now.
What were they again?
Pardon me?
Yeah. Sorry, what's that, Shane?
I'm trying to see it, but I don't see what applets. What tablets?
It's the Motorola Zoom.
Okay, cool.
So that's an amazing story. Like I say.
Yeah, and I believe we were talking some months ago about the fact that in developing nations, when one of the reasons or one of the challenges the OLPC project proper had was that they couldn't train the teachers. The kids were in a complete different story altogether, but it was hard getting the teachers on board with the technology. In this case, you don't need the teachers. The kids can teach themselves.
Well, after Hurricane Sandy, wouldn't it have been really convenient if they could have had one of these generators that they figured out in Nigeria?
Yes, I love this article. It was on the level of the one we were just talking about. Like the same. Like I would never have ever thought that you could do that. And then of course I did a bit of reading. And I'm like, well, of course you can. Why would I not have thought of this? Like,
I don't necessarily want to be the one by the filling station necessarily, but
no,
just give me a curtain.
So.
Big mad props out to Duro Aina Adebola, who's 14, Akindele Abiola, who's 14, Faleke Ulo Watoyen, I probably butchered that name, also 14.
Yeah, that's the one you butchered. I'm not saying I can do better.
Got one more. Bello Eniola, who's 15. These 4 kids created a power generator that runs on urine.
Piss off.
To the great white north.
Urine is put to an electrolytic cell which separates out the hydrogen. The hydrogen goes into a water filter for purification, which then gets pushed into a gas cylinder. Gas cylinder pushes hydrogen into a cylinder of liquid borax, which I think is some kind of cleaning acid or acid.
Either that or it's a guy from Kazakhstan. I'm not sure.
It's like a bleach or something.
Probably just really basic.
Anyway, that's used to remove the moisture from the hydrogen gas, and then the purified hydrogen gas gets pushed into the generator. Amazing.
All I know is that within 20 years, one of these people will be trying to convince me over email that I have to help them get $20 million out of the country. Really? That's all I got on that?
That's all. I was
expecting
man.
so much.
Really stretching there.
I was expecting so much more from that. Now I'm depressed. But it's okay, because it's time for the pew-pews!
Pew! 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 No, not pew. Le pew.
Sorry. Should I have waited for the back channel on that?
I'm here.
I know you are.
I miss Raiwai just showing up. Whatever.
I love this story. The more that this story develops, I absolutely love it. So there was a suit that Apple brought against Samsung originally, I think, saying that they copied and they didn't want Samsung to be able to sell their products in England. In fact, this was a couple months ago. The judge said, no, they didn't. And in fact, for you suing them and causing them all this bad publicity, you have to put a message up on your website saying that they didn't copy you. And Apple, over this past week, put a link to their message. Instead of putting the message big on their website, put a small in the bottom corner link to their message.
Which, don't forget, is actually what the court document said to do. Like, it's just a link in your footer to this thing. Yeah, just to clarify. Not that I want to ever defend Apple, but there you go.
Look at everything else on the line it's on. Terms of use, privacy policy, use
That's
of cookies.
The first place that everybody goes to. They look at a website.
Yeah, nothing on that line.
After a hearing in a court in London last Thursday morning, the judge told Apple it had changed the wording of the statement within 48 hours, carry it on its homepage, and use at least an 11-point font. If he would have added and used Comic Sans, that would have been even better. The part that I loved about this was Apple's argument. Apple tried to argue that it would take at least 14 days to put a corrective statement on the site. What does that say about the Apple technology wizards, that it takes them 14 days to change a website?
Yeah, but you got to remember what kind of website system they're using, right? You do know what it is, right?
Johnny Ive would have to spend a day with the statement just to see what helps.
I mean, when you're using Apple, that what's that thing called? Mobile Me? Oh, they shut that down. Oh.
The story gets funnier as it goes on. We'll see if they manage to comply or not. I didn't really follow to see whether they actually complied or not, but.
Oh, I'm on the apple.co UK right now, and it's they have something at the bottom of the front page. I guess it's 11 point, but it's on October 25th, 2012. Apple published a statement on its UK website in relation to Samsung Galaxy tablet computers. The statement was inaccurate and did not comply with the order of the Court of Appeal of England and Wales. The correct statement is at this link. So
pew pew. Some voting stuff, Mr. Curry. Some U.S. election stuff. Reddit user captures video of 2012 voting machines altering votes. And they actually confirmed this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a voting irregularity, but they confirmed it was a faulty machine. So it's a really, it's a pew-pew because it's a video. We can't really do it justice. But basically, the person in the video is trying to select Barack Obama in the privacy of the voting machine, and Mitt Romney is the only available choice. Like, it keeps going up to Mitt Romney. And so to test it, this person went to some other elected official, and like that key press registered just fine. So clearly there was some shenanigans going on. But
don't like the shenanigans one little bit.
Yeah, don't like the voting machines either.
That's pew pew right there. Worst guerrilla marketing campaign ever. I hadn't even looked at this picture yet. What am I looking at, Andrew?
I'm gonna try and keep this short, but it's the Free Software Foundation. We do from time to time, we do links from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which was co-founded by one of the alumni of the Grateful Dead, I think. The Free Software Foundation. Yes, Free Software Foundation is. I'm not sure if Richard Stallman is involved, but they're definitely freedom beards in the most classical sense, and on or about Halloween at the launch of Windows 8, they decided to do some guerrilla marketing for GNU/Linux, because apparently that's the proper name for Linux, even though it sounds retarded. GNU is a name that Richard Stallman in the 70s or 80s came up with. It's a recursive acronym, which neckbeards love. It basically, what it means is GNU's not Unix. So it was a version, it's basically a license, I think, for like free software. So what do? They show up at a Windows event with this fucking hideous GNU head costume, and they hand out lame stickers and possibly the least user-friendly Linux distro you can possibly get, called Trisquel or Trisquel. It's fucking horrible. There's no codec, so you can't use Flash in the browser. You can't watch any kind of video. You can't even play MP3s. It's basically useless. So they're at this Windows event with this hideous stuffed GNU head passing out shit software, thinking that they're going to convert people to free software. I don't think so.
Remember Gary? Remember Gary GNU? There's a children's show on in the 70s, and that was one of the characters, Gary GNU.
Hopefully, he wasn't trying to give out free software, because I never would have gotten as far as I did.
No, he wasn't trying to give out free RAM either. That was a bad joke. RAM.
GNU. Oh man. Oh,
pew pew. Dude. And our last pew pew of the week. I don't even want to read the headline. From the Toronto Sun. Do they have a paywall yet? I wish this would be behind it. Chad Kroeger dared Nickelback bandmate to stick penis in fan.
Yeah.
When they say fan, do they mean like a fan of the band?
No,
okay.
no.
I originally, when I read that, I did think exactly that. I thought, oh my god,
it says bandmate in the title, and you get down and it says drum technician.
So yes. They're in Germany. And apparently it's really hot in the dressing room or whatever, and they're bored because they're Nickelback and they got nothing to do because their songs aren't hard to practice.
You mean
Chad Kroeger decides? Yeah. the one song that they play different variations of for 2 hours. The Chad Kroeger offered a drum tech 600 Deutschmarks to stick his dick in an electric fan. The best part of this story, this is a quote. He took the money, ... I can All right, I got this.
I just read it as you were trying to read it.
I can't. I realize this is an audio podcast, so I've got to get through this for the sake of the audience. He took the money. I can still hear the blah, 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 blah of the blade slowly sputtering to a stop.
Oh my God, we've achieved a new level of the show.
This goes on the Pew Pew Wall of Fame. This is honestly the first Hall of Fame Pew Pew story that we have to mark.
Let me just say, I wish that generator was here right now.
Ryan,
I don't remember how to breathe.
Ryan, you have to archive this moment, I believe. It goes in book.
In book. Noted.
Oh my God. The thing goes on though. I can still hear the blah, blah, blah of the blade slowly sputtering to a stop and this blood-curdling scream. It was fantastic.
I couldn't see the top of the page, so I didn't know what site this was from. And I was scared to look up to see whose article it was.
And then, of course, at the bottom, there's a poll. Why do people hate
Why do they hate Nickelback so much? I don't know. Penis antics?
Unoriginal music.
And then the last choice is, I like Nickelback.
Oh, dear God. And so wraps up, ladies and gentlemen, the Pew Pews and the links for this week. I honestly think we should just bring that link back next week. I think it's worth talking about again.
Maybe I can get through it with corpsing.
Oh, Jesus. We have a shout out this week, Andrew.
Yeah, we do. It's on Reddit, which is really cool. It's the user on Reddit is wipe the tears from my face. Nickelback's good for something.
The sad thing is, no one's gonna get this far in the podcast because we've gone for like an hour and a half. After like an hour, they're gonna go, "Holy fuck, I'm done with this."
Well, you're missing out because Arrow of Arjuna, a.k.a. Soderman, left us a nice little note on Reddit. Longtime regular listener. Have to use an alias. That's unfortunate. Anyway, he's getting the handle of Reddit, loves the show, and not just because it's Canadian-centric, which is always music to my ears. And big cheers at the end, so kudos to that. Love people on Reddit, love people leaving comments on the blog. Actually, based on one of the comments we got from a previous episode, we have some news for episode 209, which came up last week. We actually have a new delivery format for that particular episode. It's an experiment that Mr. Marco did.
Yeah, so someone said it would be really neat if you could put it up in a video form on YouTube, which when I say video, it basically means there's going to be the image that goes along with the MP3 file. I'm just basically mastering it with an image on the front, and you can listen to it in YouTube. But the reason that they asked for that is so that if they wanted to do the equivalent of deep linking, which is another euphemism Shane's getting used to right now, they could link, if they wanted to, point a friend to a specific part in the show. Like, for instance, in this episode, when it gets posted up, they could point somebody right to the Chad Kroeger story at the end.
In order to get that link,
that's actually quite brilliant. I wouldn't even have thought of doing that for an audio podcast where you could actually, listen at timestamp whatever.
Yeah,
I love it. It doesn't work Sorry, I was just going to say it doesn't work with any traditional podcast delivery system, though. Like, I don't think you can. I could be wrong, but I don't think you can put an MP3, like a YouTube file, unless you could strip it out on the fly and put it in an RSS feed.
That is one drawback to YouTube is for doing audio stuff anyway, which makes sense to me because it's a video service.
So, anyways, as it works right now, guys, if you right-click on the video at the point you want to link to, you can choose link URL here.
Exactly.
At this start.
Yeah, you used to have to put like some code on the end of the link manually, but now YouTube has a nice little button there.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can do.
And it works really, really awesome if you have subscribed to the HTML5 program on YouTube.
There you go. So you can definitely check that out. And wow, yes, it was an epic, ladies and gentlemen, but we were celebrating the return of Shane Birley this week here at Dyscultured.com. You can listen to the podcast every week live at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Time by going to Dyscultured.com/live, joining us in the chat, like several people did this week, and we're surprised that they haven't passed out dead yet. But they are still with us. Bootprint is with us. Henshaw is with us. Haywood is with us. We had MMD in the chat earlier. And then the regular cast of characters who are talking to you now. By all means, join up, follow along, have a conversation with each other as we're entertaining ourselves. You can email us at dyscultured@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at dyscultured. You can submit links for next week's episode by going to dyscultured.reddit.com. And every single time that you type Dyscultured into anywhere on the web, you have to spell it with a Y. Why is that the triumphant returning Mr. Shane Birley?
Why are there so many rainbows in the sky?
Well played.
Let me tell you why.
No, that's okay. It's okay, we're good. It would take me too long to upload to YouTube if it goes much longer.
There's like a 26-minute rainbow solo near the end.
Followed by a penis fan solo by Chad Kroger's drum tech. Oh, dear God. Mr. Curry, what music are we going to listen to on the way out today?
I tried to find something topical for the U.S. election, our friends south of the border. And there's no songs about Mitt Romney on Jamendo, but there's one or two about Obama. This is by a band called Puffy Eyes, and it's called Obama's Funky Party. So hopefully all you Democrats down there in the blue states will appreciate it.
And where can people find you, Mr. Curry, when you're not hanging out with us once a week?
myphonebook.ca, where as part of a NaNoWriMo project, I'm writing a 15,000 word book, and I just started yesterday, and I wrote 15,000 words. Mr. Wiseman, how about yourself?
I'm going to donate my time this week to the No Agenda Show. You should go check out the noagendashow.com for their American U.S. election coverage. Yeah, or at Wiseman on the Twitter. Mr. Birley?
Well, as usual, you can find me on the web at shanesworld.ca, where you can download free porn because it stars just me, and I just do it for the fun of it.
Actually, it stars Shane and a fan. You can find all of my stuff aggregated at anthonymarco.com. You can find me on Twitter at AnthonyMarco. That wraps up Dyscultured for this week, and on the count of 3, I want everybody to say... blah, blah, blah. 1, 2, 3.
Blah, 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 blah. Gott und Himmel.
If there is anyone out
Ich bin ein castrato.
who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer. It's the answer told by lines that stretched around schools and churches in numbers this nation has never seen. By people who waited 3 hours, 4 hours, many for the first time in their lives, because they believe that this time must be different. Their voices would be that different. It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black United States of America.
This is more than just a feud.
We are and always will be the United States of America.
We are and always will be the United States of America.